In our last episode, we cracked into the opening portion of Broken Realms Be'lakor, starting with the recap of events from a somewhat removed perspective, that of the Seraphon. Guardians of the natural order of the realms looked down at what the hands of gods and mortals had wrought, and they were enraged. Lord Croak, along with his Slann Starmasters, supervisors, his team, they came up with a plan. We need to kill the Gaunt Summoner known as Eater of Tomes. And this is the same Gaunt Summoner responsible for Archaon's foray into Varanite and the architect of the Ever-Chosen's grand schemes. To do this, the Seraphon marched through the Genesis Gate, still opened after the Stormcast host from Broken Realms Morathi marched through. Now, at the top of this episode, I just want to say really quickly, because it kind of came up afterwards after I finished recording the last one, the reason why they didn't teleport the Slann, just like they often do with their forces, into the 8 points. The idea is the magic of chaos had messed up the 8 points so thoroughly that the same summoning wouldn't work. So it couldn't just be like the Slann just crashes in and summons the host all around him. Nope, they had to march in there. And so Lord Croak himself, most ancient of the Seraphon, specifically asked the leader of this Seraphon army, the Slann Master Kotek, to go in on foot. So they go in through the Genesis Gate with a fixed path, marching right towards the Silver Tower of Eater of Tomes. And this is a crazy idea, right? The whole reason the gate was opened was so that the other forces could march in. And in my mind, I just imagine that the Stormcast Eternals and the Daughters of Cain kind of kicked the hornet's nest, so to speak, because those events would have happened before the Seraphon marched in. The defenders of Varanthax's Maw are all on high alert. Warbands are rushing towards the Genesis Gate right now, so to stroll out of it was a bit daring, I should say. But that's exactly what they did, and thanks to their inhuman physiology, the Seraphon host was making incredible time. We mentioned before in Broken Realms Morathi how much of an arduous journey this was, and it's not that it wasn't dangerous for them, but for the Seraphon, who can handle very, very different and exotic climates, they kind of had an easier time, and they just barreled straight towards the Silver Tower. And they're still suffering attrition the entire way. It's not like they're immune to the ravages of the Bloodwind spoil. It's still incredibly dangerous. Skinks are getting pulled into the mire or seized by the myriad of deadly creatures roaming around. But equally as notable is that the pain works both ways, right? Just as the Seraphon are fundamentally hurt by the corruption of what they call the Astro Matrix, basically the web of magic that connects everything. The ground of the 8 points itself is recoiling in horror from the marching steps of the Seraphon. These are two forces that are diametrically opposed to one another, like two polarities on a magnet. The purity of the magic of Azir is burning away the chaos corruption wherever they walk, but quickly falls back to darkness as the army passes on. It's almost like chaos just retracts in horror from around them, but the place they're in is still dangerous, so they're still having an attrition. But it's just making this huge war host easily noticeable and having a very direct impact on the environment. Eater of Tomes, the Seraphon target, was infuriated to learn about the lizardmen coming towards him. Again, to put this timeline in perspective, he's still chasing the remnants of the Stormcast Eternal host who went to his, Varanthax's Maw to create a distraction for Morathi and the other Stormcast to get the Varanite. He just thought he was super victorious. He crushed this little Stormcast army. This is all over and I can get back to work. Only to learn about an entire second army rolling up on his doorstep. What's more, as the Seraphon army, which is clarified to be from Dracothian's Tale as the sub-faction, is actively hurting his magic. Essentially, they're trying to shut down his connection to the unbridled chaos power, as well as his Silver Tower is kind of connected in a weird arcane web with other Silver Towers and realm gates and all this kinds of stuff. So the Seraphon are actively hurting him as they're making their approach. All that being said, Eater of Tomes does a little mental review of his defenses, which of course lets us, the audience, get a better sense of exactly what the Seraphon have in store. The doorway to his silver tower is here in the 8 points within an area known as the Vale of Screams. To get there, the Slann Kotek would need to fight through dozens of Zangor tribes, and then as he approached closer to the tower, there's a host of demons flooding around its base that need to be fought, and then lastly, there's the actual defenses of the tower itself. They got arcane weapons and wards to keep out intruders. This place is equal parts fortress, research lab, and gateway to hell itself, and Eater of Tomes wanted to see them die in their efforts for their arrogance. Now, the book doesn't waste too much time on the travel from Ghiran to the Silver Tower, because I feel like that portion of travel was really well covered in Broken Realms Morathi, so it kind of jumps straight into the fight. This massive Seraphon army, led by, again, Slann Kotek and his Scar veteran Quartok, lay siege, right? They have this huge host of demons. They basically just bat the Zangor away. I mean, they listed it as a defense, but I mean, basically, they're like beastmen, right? They just take a couple of punches and they bolt away and they come back. And they're skirmishing, they're a threat, but they're not like a major army that's going to stop this huge force that's coming in. So they get to the base of the tower, demons start flying around, led by the Fate Skimmer, Atrazan. And essentially this battle boils down to the fact that there are two war fronts going on. There's the forces on the ground, of course, but then there's a really clear delineation that the forces in the sky are of extreme importance. Almost that the sky matters more. You got screamers whizzing around, there's wizards on discs, they're clashing with skink riders. At one point, Kotek, the Slann, gives Quartok, his Scar veteran, sorry, these names are killing me, basically puts a blessing on them, and now they can fly. So now you have the leader of the Scar veteran and his Saurus Knights flying through the sky, just smashing demons left and right. It's probably the coolest depiction of like an in-game spell being brought to the story that I've ever seen. With the aerial combat sort of on lock for the Seraphon, they begin pulverizing the enemy forces on the ground. And the whole point of this, the reason why the air battle is so important, is because they needed to be able to move the Bastiladons and all these heavy, their artillery, so to speak, forward without getting just totally pounded by aerial combat. So the Bastiladons move up and they begin firing on a singular point on the Silver Tower. Eater of Tomes is sitting there watching this goes down. He's not super afraid of losing the fight, but he doesn't want to like basically be disturbed. He doesn't want them to smash or destroy anything that's precious inside of his tower, because it's clear that they're focusing on something, but he doesn't know what. And so, just like he did in Broken Realms Morathi, he's able to actually lift the tower into the sky. The entire thing just rolls on up, and it leaves the 8 points and goes into the void. The darkness, the space between realms. Now at this point, he basically just ding-dong ditches, the people on the ground, right? He starts a fight with them and then he runs away. We're done following the tales of Kotek and Quartok, his Scar veteran. Their job was just to get this guy to leave the 8 points, okay? At this point, I'm just going to give you guys a warning, okay? I don't know if it's a buckle up Buttercup kind of moment or whatever, but I'm going to prepare you for what's about to happen, because we're going to jump into some strong Star Wars fan fiction from AOS land, and this is what I mean. What happens now is a battle in the void. Seraphon ships, commanded by Lord Croak, encircle the Silver Tower, and they literally describe like boarding vessels, and it's all magic and arcane weapons, but essentially laser weapons are firing out, and they're trying to smash and heave this Silver Tower, again, focusing on a very specific point. And they're blasting away at Eater of Tomes so bad that he is flung into Chaman, the realm of metal. And, they're looking at this, the skink priests are like, Lord Croak, how did he get away? Like, we were supposed to just blow him up in the sky. What's going on? And what's really happening is that Lord Croak has this entire crazy Rube Goldberg plan machine going on, but he's not informing anyone below him. So when the Silver Tower goes and crash lands in Chaman, everyone in space is like, did we just fail? Like, what just happened here? Landing in the realm of metal, Eater of Tomes takes assessment of the damage. This is probably the first chance to relax a bit on the pacing of the story so we can really get a sense of like what the damage the Seraphon have done. And so he's looking at his silver tower. He knows it can be repaired. It'll just take time. But the part of his tower that they've all been firing at is now exposed, and we get a chance to look at it. Essentially, think of these as like power generators. Big repositories of arcane power, like giant batteries, so that Eater of Tomes can pull from this power source to obviously move his silver tower, to enact great spells and incantations and things like that. It's just a repository of energy, so to speak. This is something that's come up a few times with Tzeentch and stuff. Back in the Realmgate Wars, there was a whole fortress that was designed to suck in all kinds of magic and power, to the point where it even like ate Stormcast souls in the walls. So like, you know, Tzeentch having repositories of magic power is not crazy. In this context, having just seen a silver tower fly in space, it definitely resembles more of a generator type thing, but I understand. And while he's kind of assessing the damage, the Thunder Lizards come in. Again, this is Seraphon. These ones are a little bit different. These aren't Starborn. These are of the realms. They are super primal, very aggressive. They focus a lot on giant beasts. If you haven't seen the coverage of Seraphon I did with their sub-factions. And again, fighting demons. They're trying to rush the magic artillery of the Bastiladons and the engines of the gods, moving everything forward. There's a lot of back and forth between Eater of Tomes launching powerful spells at his opponents and the Seraphon fighting forwards. But before this fight took place, we learned that Croak basically gave very specific instructions to the Skink Starmasters of the Thunder Lizards. Basically saying like, he's going to land here, and I want you to tune your weapons to like basically this frequency, to put them together in this such way, and then fire on a singular point. Well, with everything in place, going just as Croak said it would, they fire. They pierce the wards and defenses of Eater of Tomes, and he is vaporized in a very cool scene. And that's important. That is one of 9 of Archaon's Gaunt Summoners. He is an incredibly important character to have evaporated, with drastic ramifications for Archaon's plan to get into Azir. However, along with Eater of Tomes, this beam accidentally pierced the generators, which detonated. And this explosion, I can't quite tell you, is a big bomb. Okay, the entire continent that they are on, it's the Thunder Lizards. They're kind of out towards the outer edge of Chamon, where magic gets a little bit crazy. The entire continent shudders. A mountain is disintegrated, lakes boil into the air, and a free city known as Tansis was wiped out completely. It had a population over 50,000. All parts of the Tzeentch and Thunder Lizards army are annihilated utterly and completely. Like this was a big old boom. Anyone looking that direction from the realm instantly blinded for several miles around. It was just a mess. However, something else happened. You see, the Silver Tower, these huge fortresses of arcane might, are also entrenched in the ancient magics of the realm gates. They're connected to each other Silver Tower and also draw on or connect to the various realm gates around. What they found out was that destroying the tower and destroying it with such arcane intensity set off a chain reaction. All across the realms, any realm gate that had a direct connection to this Silver Tower, the Silver Tower of Eater of Tomes, exploded as well. It wasn't many, it wasn't like they annihilated every single realm gate around. It was just a few very specific ones, but with that, they learned that there could be a chain reaction with realm gates. And all across the realms, any of those realm gates exploded. Now, luckily, these were often far out in the middle of nowhere, the chaos wastes, his realm gates would have been more important to Archaon than anybody else. But this idea of a chain reaction, pin that to the back of your head. Just think about that. And with that, the first act of Broken Realms Be'lakor comes to a close. And I want to talk about why is this so cool. Put simply, we don't see enough Seraphon combat. I mean, I love it. It's just the intensity of powerful characters, the Slann, who know exactly what needs to be done and how to do it, mixed with the crazy, like, primal fury and frankly just crazy fun of the rest of the army. You know, they're biting, they're slashing, they're hacking. You got skinks jumping all over the place, dying in the thousands, being kind of cute and hilarious while they do so. You also have massive monsters carrying like ancient looking technology that they don't have any way of comprehending. There's just everything about them when they go to war is so fascinating. Like, they're just a fun army to read about when they're actually doing something. Now, we learn throughout the series of this story that Croak was in control the entire time, right? The Skink Star Priests, who he sent in, basically the leader of the Thunder Lizards, his own retinue, who was kind of coordinating things in the space battle, they don't see the whole plan. And so they're constantly thinking that something's going wrong. When he leaves the 8 points, they're like, wait, what? When he gets shot into Chaman from space, they're like, wait, he's supposed to be dead now, like twice over. And then ultimately in Chaman is where things, kind of go down. But it was Croak who saw this plan has to work a very specific way, right? I call it the Rube Goldberg machine earlier. It's exactly what it is. He knew we have to get Eater of Tomes out of the 8 points. We have to push him to Chaman. And then there he saw the Thunder Lizards as a sacrifice worthy of putting Eater of Tomes out of action. And also, I want to throw a little note here at the end. Not all the Thunder Lizards are dead if you have your army based around them. This is not like the entire faction got wiped out. This was a specific army led by a Skink Star Priest, but they were set up to deliver that final punch. And I like this. Again, it seems very much like a Seraphon set of actions. They're not helping anybody else, and in fact, they killed a ton of innocent people, but creating this crazy machine to achieve a massive goal, right? Tzeentch might be the master of fates, but the Slann are masters of cause and effect. And the way that I was kind of thinking about this as I was reading through it, if you've ever seen someone who plays pool professionally, like a pool table, get the stick, smash the balls around the table. If you ever seen somebody who plays that professionally, like they in their mind have this whole geometry plan set up of like, when I hit this ball with this much force, it's going to bounce here and there and there, and then tap on my target kind of a thing and knock it into one of the holes. That's exactly how I picture Croak coming with this plan. I'm going to send this force. Eater Tome's going to go up into space. We're going to pinball him over to Chaman, where in Chaman, the Thunder Lizards will bring in the final blow. It's just a lot of, again, cause and effect and seeing how things are going to plan out. Now, I'll admit, the battle in the Void, it kind of got me a bit. Like, I felt like I was reading a 40k book, and that's not in a bad way. We just don't see a lot of vehicle combat in AOS, even like sailing ship to sailing ship, which quite frankly is a shame. We should have more vessels fighting. Not everything has to be on foot combat, but that being said, I like their use of the Void more and more in this series. If you don't remember, Teclis and Nagash, they fought out in the Void for a bit. It just is kind of this nice region where, because there's so much space and we don't have to worry about getting bogged down with the details of how catastrophic it is to the area around them, we can really just focus on the prime target. In that case, it was Teclis Nagash. We didn't care about the destruction they cause anything around them. And in this case, it was the Seraphon versus the Silver Tower. So again, I kind of like it for that reason. All in all, I thought it was an epic fight for a faction that I've wanted to see in the story for quite a while, and I liked it quite a bit. So let me ask you this. How about you? What do you think the ramifications are of killing one of 9 Gaunt Summoners and his tower? We also have Lord Croak pulling the strings from on high. That's a very interesting plot line that I want to follow more of, like how he fits into the Seraphon faction, as well as what all of this means for Archaon's plans to get into Azir. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'll catch you there. Thank you all so much for watching and listening, and I'll see you tomorrow. Happy wargaming.